Hey there everybody, I'm allPRO, strength coach for allPRO Sports Performance, and I'm here to bring you week 3 of the KDF Marathon Strength Training Program. Be on the lookout later this week for a little video on changing volume and loading just for this program. Here's this week's program, and as you can see I did change the sets and reps for everything, so just be aware that not everything is going to be 3 sets of 10 or 3 sets of 30 seconds for any timed exercise. And let's get to our first workout. Here we go. So for our first exercise, we have a pistol squat. You're going to start with the chair behind you, one foot out in front. The opposite heel is where your big toe is. You're going to sit down to the chair, let the hands come out in front, and that's just going to help counterbalance you as you sit down. Make sure that you keep your chest up and the hips squared. Next up, we have a broad jump. Really, we're trying to work on landing mechanics here, not the distance that you can jump. So the key is really land as soft as possible, no matter how far you jump. As you can see, my knees stay out when I land. They never cave in. And I'm trying to push off my toes as hard as possible and land near my heel. Third up, we have a single leg bridge. Now, I'm showing you here with a dumbbell first. I like to have my opposite knee bent up. My right heel is pulled towards my butt, and I'm trying to push through that heel as hard as I can, keeping my stomach tight and squeezing that right butt cheek as hard as possible. If you feel like your hamstring is going to cramp, just stop the rep. And onto our upper body, we have a step back row. Notice I have it anchored low. I'm going to step back with the same foot as the arm that I'm pulling. I'm driving that elbow back and squeezing the shoulder blade as best as I can, trying to bring it to the middle of my back. It's really important not to focus on pulling with the hand, but driving the elbow behind you. Next for our upper body, we have just a basic push-up. Notice that my hands are wider than my shoulders, but my elbows are going down towards my hips. I personally like to have my thumbs rotated up towards the wall in front of me, and that just kind of helps with any wrist pain that you might have. Now, if you need to modify your push-up, 2 chairs right next to each other if you don't have a bench really helps to make them easier than doing them on the ground. That slight bit of elevation really changes it. Here we have a variation on a side plank, and I can credit this to my boss, Eric McElroy. All we're going to do is move the arm, and it seems really simple, but it's going to challenge you quite a bit. So first up, we have a big karate chop. Second, we have a big wave like you're waving to somebody across the room. And the third, you're going to take that arm like last week and thread it through the bottom of your body, bringing it back up to the original position. Last for our workout, we have the hollow body hold. Now you're going to start with your knees up, hands over your head, and what you're really trying to do is focus on pressing your belly button down to the ground, keeping your stomach tight. If you can, try and extend the legs out, hands all the way up overhead. It's much harder than it looks. Alright guys, workout 2, and we're kind of continuing with that trend. It's going to be a little harder than the first 2 weeks. First up is a reverse lunge. You're going to reach that foot as far back as you can and drop the knee to the ground. The front leg is the one that we're really focusing on, pressing back up out of that lunge, not letting the knee dive left or right. Notice I keep my chest upright and the weight really doesn't move forward and backward at all. It stays glued to my hip as opposed to moving forward towards that front foot. Second, we have a variation on the lateral band walk. This is a forward monster walk. Notice I'm going to go diagonally about 45 degrees, stepping to my foot each time. Now it's really important here to keep the toes facing straight ahead, otherwise that band's going to slip up to your ankles or even off of your foot completely. Also, you're trying to push the knees apart the whole time that you're doing this. Third, we have a single leg vertical jump. Again, like the last workout, I'm not worried about how high you jump, but what happens to that knee when you land. Notice that my knee doesn't really move left or right, it stays straight ahead and doesn't deviate. Next up guys, we have a paused push-up. Now all we're going to do is a regular push-up. Just at the very bottom we're going to pause for about half a second to a second and then just push straight up. All of our other push-up principles apply, where we're starting with our hands shoulder width apart, and then from there keeping the stomach tight so that our hips don't sag at all. Again, if you need to modify this to the knees or up at a bench, definitely do that. Now next for our upper body movements, we have a half kneeling pull down. Again, you can do this with a cable machine or like I'm doing it here with a band. Now, just like our other row, we're driving the elbow down instead of pulling with the hand. We're trying to squeeze the shoulder blade again towards the midline, and as you can see, I have a little bit of side bend just at the very end of the motion. And back from week 1, we have the pal-off press. Now you're going to take an athletic stance with the band right in the middle of your chest. You're going to press out, hold for just about half a second, and then bring it back to your stomach. The key here, don't let the hips rotate, shoulders rotate, and the knees should be pressed apart like we do in our squats. Now last up for this workout, we have just a basic crunch. Again, I like to keep my hands over my head, my legs slightly extended, and then just pull the ribs towards your hips. And then since this isn't a sit-up, we're not trying to actually get the shoulders all the way up off the ground, maybe a couple inches. And then here we have a slight regression with the hands just across the chest. And then that finally wraps it up for our week 3, guys. So remember, if you have questions, please feel free to email me or comment below. And good luck for this week.